this sounds familiar to you. You start off learning how to draw or master a new material, and there's this sudden burst of energy and rapid growth. But then once you've tackled the basics, things begin to taper off and you plateau. We all hit walls in our artistic journey, and trust me, they are so frustrating. I've been there too. But we don't have to stay stuck. In this video, I'm going to teach you 10 strategies that you can use to reignite your artistic growth and to make this your best year ever. These strategies were all hard-earned and were results of my personal experience and implementation. So let's rewind back to 2018 when I created this piece. This drawing started with the idea to draw honey dripping down somebody's face and the desire to start this drawing as soon as humanly possible. Patience has never been my strong suit. Soon after having the idea, I put together a chaotic photo shoot with my sister and a few happy dogs that got to clean up the mess. By the end of the week, I had picked my favorite photo, uploaded it into Photoshop, then I dove in and started chugging away at this 80-hour drawing. I worked on this piece whenever I could, and I eventually finished it after an all-night drawing session just in time for a submission deadline. At first, I was really proud of this piece, but as the weeks went on, I started noticing things that really bothered me. There were harsh edges, awkward colors, and a disconnect between the subject and the background. Looking back, I realized that I didn't really become a better artist during the 80 hours that I spent working on this piece. In fact, all of the growth happened after, as I reflected on what went well, what didn't go the way that I hoped, and what I was going to do differently in the next piece. But I wouldn't have learned anything from this piece or made any progress if I had approached it with a fixed mindset. A fixed mindset is when you believe that your abilities and talents are static, that you are either good at something or you're not. When you have a fixed mindset and you make a mistake, you usually use this mistake as proof that you just are not good at something, that this is your limit. Whereas with a growth mindset, you focus on your progress and you know that you can continue to make improvements as you take on challenges. This shifts the mindset from I can't do this to I can't do this yet. Here are a few ways that you can cultivate a growth mindset as an artist. Number 1, embrace challenges. Remind yourself that growth happens as you stretch your abilities, not when you stay in your comfort zone. Number 2, reframe mistakes that you make as learning opportunities. And always ask yourself, what will I do differently next time? Number 3, focus on the effort and the progress and the journey more than just the finished pieces. Number 4, seek out feedback. Growth mindset oriented people know that good constructive criticism is going to help them improve. So they seek this out and immediately apply it to their work. Number 5, adopt the yet mindset. So if you hear yourself saying something like, I can't do this, always add yet to the end of it. I really just can't draw eyes. Yet. My mom, who introduced me to growth mindset, has used this yet idea and turned it into a family philosophy. So for example, when she comes over and I have a messy house and I say, sorry mom, my house is a mess. She goes, Lana, you don't have a clean house yet. And this just seeps into every single part of our life. It's kind of a running family joke. Honestly, when you have this yet mindset, you can look at any part of your life as an opportunity to learn and grow and not as proof of your failure or limitations. But back to this honey portrait. If I had known then what I know now, I would have done a couple things differently. When I first had the honey portrait idea, I should have grabbed my sketchbook and explored it. Why was I drawn to this concept? What were the different ways I could approach it? And what were my hopes for the impact of the finished piece? If I had clarified my intent and still felt like my idea was strong and worth pursuing, then I would have transitioned to making thumbnail sketches before ever going to the photo shoot and collecting photographic references. This thumbnail exercise would give me the opportunity to clarify my vision and not allow it to just be living up in my head. Over the years, I've experienced both extremes of sketchbooking. In high school, I filled this one from cover to cover, sketching multiple times a day on the bus, in boring classes, everywhere. but there have also been long stretches where I hardly touched a sketchbook in months. Like when I started a new demanding job, became a new parent, or when I completely dove into a drawing and started to forget my creative development and exploration. Having experienced over 20 years of sketchbook habits, I have found some really hard and fast rules for me that I think will be the same for you too. Keeping a regular sketchbook practice helps me stay more creative, more curious, and more connected to my identity as an artist. As an extra bonus, it also helps me stay more emotionally and mentally healthy. Sketchbooks are where ideas can be messy. It's where you can explore and play and remind yourself that not everything you create needs to be a masterpiece. This year, I have experienced tremendous artistic and creative growth through my sketchbook practice. And I am doubling down on this in the next year. So stay tuned for more videos about sketchbook projects and inspiration. And if you don't have a sketchbook yet, consider this your invitation to get started today. If you don't have a sketchbook and want a little bit of guidance, I have linked my favorite affordable options down in the video description. The next piece I completed after the honey portrait was much more successful. It was a portrait of my husband and son, and not only did I like it better, but the art community responded really well to this piece. It had a stronger narrative, a stronger composition, and it was clear to me that I had learned a lot from the last drawing. But completing these two drawings took nearly 8 months. If I remember correctly, the only artwork that I made outside of these two pieces was for class demos. Now, life was busy. I had just moved to a new state. I had 2 kids under the age of 3, and I had just started a part-time teaching job. And these parts of my life deserved attention and time. But let's do the math. If each of these pieces took about 80 hours to complete, I had 160 hours that I spent making art over this 8-month period. But what if I had used that 160 hours differently? Instead of completing 2 80-hour pieces, I could have completed 8 20-hour pieces, or 16 10-hour pieces, or even 10 10-hour pieces, and dedicated 60 hours to sketchbook practice. Imagine how many more opportunities I would have had to experiment, learn, and grow if I had completed smaller projects and then taken what I learned and applied it into the next piece. There is a time to go all in on big, detailed pieces, but when you are focused on leveling up, or if you have really serious time constraints, spending tens or hundreds of hours on a piece is not ideal. Save those big, intense projects for when you have the time and when you have a really solid idea that you have fully fleshed out. Regardless of your skill level, spending the majority of your time on smaller pieces, studies, and exploration is going to maximize your learning and growth. Think about this like going to the gym. You are not going to get stronger by doing one really amazing bicep rep. Instead, you need to do lots of repetitions over time to grow that muscle. And the exact same thing is true for art. You've got to get your reps in. So, have I convinced you that consistent reps are going to help you level up as an artist? If so, and if you've been learning anything in this video, hit the like button and share with me how you're going to implement what you've learned so far into your artistic practice in 2025. Now, let's dive in to a couple of practices that we should be implementing in our sketchbook. While our individual goals as artists might vary, there are a few things that are universal that will help you level up as an artist, regardless of your style or your skill level. And at the top of that list is drawing from observation. When you practice drawing what you see, you gain the confidence to tweak references, adjust proportions, and even create entirely from your imagination. You also deepen your understanding of how to represent three-dimensional objects in 2 dimensions. The act of slowing down to carefully study an object, whether from life or from a photograph, hones your technical skills, but it also improves your focus and deepens your connection to your subject. Observational drawing can also become a very mindful practice, deepening your awareness and concentration and appreciation for the world around you. If observational drawing isn't part of your regular practice yet, it's never too late to start. You can start with really simple objects, things that you find around your home, favorite photograph, or possibly your non-dominant hand. And remember that the goal isn't perfection. It's about putting your reps in, getting comfortable with your materials, and making slow and consistent progress. Another essential practice that will significantly improve your skills as an artist is studying how all of the elements in a drawing work together. Another name for this is composition. One reason that studying composition is often neglected is because it's more of an abstract skill, whereas technical skills like blending and working on textures are more concrete. We can follow a step-by-step procedure and find that final result. But with composition, there isn't a right answer. There isn't a step-by-step guide. So, how do you learn composition? Here are some ways that I would recommend improving your compositional skills. Number one, study art compositions. Analyze artworks from museums, galleries, or online. What draws your eye? Why did the artist place the objects where they did? Art books on composition are also incredibly helpful. Check out the video description for my favorites. Number two, use thumbnails. Small, quick sketches can save you time and frustration. I learned this the hard way on my honey portrait. Skipping thumbnails resulted in issues in the finished piece that could have been avoided. I have definitely learned from this mistake, and now thumbnails are essential to my process, letting me plan with clarity and intention and execute my vision with efficiency. Number three, do master copies. Recreating masterpieces is an excellent way to learn how great artists use light, shadow, and shape to craft compelling compositions. Let's return to 2019. I had just finished those two big pieces, and while I was excited with the growth I had made from the honey portrait to the portrait of my husband and son, I wasn't making the kind of progress that I wanted to be making at this point in my development. So I made a shift. I started working on smaller pieces that I could complete more quickly. At the time, I was working almost exclusively with colored pencils. But colored pencil can be slow and time consuming, and I wasn't making the progress at the pace that I wanted to. So I started looking around at ways to speed up my process, and this allowed me to discover pan pastels. Exploring this new medium opened up new possibilities and reignited my curiosity in a way that it hadn't been in quite a while. I started asking questions like, what surfaces would work best with pan pastels? And what subjects did I want to try with this new medium? I am a big advocate of experimenting with new materials. It broadens your skill set and it sparks curiosity and creativity. But buying more supplies isn't always the answer. Whether you're on a budget or you really just want to master the materials that you already have, trying something new doesn't have to require purchasing new materials. You can grow by trying something different with the materials that you already own. Explore a new style, a new subject matter, or maybe you play around with the amount of time that you spend on a project, limiting it or expanding it. Growth often happens with stepping into the unfamiliar, and you don't have to purchase new supplies to do this. When I tried out pan pastels, something else was happening besides just learning a new material. I was adopting a more playful and less serious attitude about my art. I was taking risks and having fun. Adopting a playful and curious mindset is key to your growth and development as an artist, and you'll see how that unfolded for me throughout the rest of the video. Around the time that I was exploring pan pastels, I also discovered a deep love for graphite under the mentorship of the incredible graphite man himself, Stephen Bauman. I had the chance to attend one of his 3-day workshops when I was working at an atelier in LA, and I learned so much. This workshop literally changed the way that I thought about graphite, the way that I approached light, and the way that I organized shadows. This experience also reinforced in me something that I believe so strongly. finding a mentor can fast track your artistic growth. A mentor brings fresh perspectives, proven techniques, and real-time feedback that can push you past plateaus and help you see your work in a new light. It's not just about learning technical skills. It's about having someone to guide you through your creative journey, to inspire you to try new things, and to challenge you to step outside your comfort zone. I only got to spend a few days with Stephen Bauman in this workshop, but as I continue to engage with his posts on Instagram and his YouTube channel, he continues to serve as a mentor for me. You can find mentors by enrolling in courses and workshops, but this isn't the only way. You can get really creative with this. In fact, you can find a dead mentor by reading books and engaging with the history of that artist. You can also find mentors in artists that are just a few steps ahead of you by commenting on content and art that they share online. Just please remember to always show your gratitude for those artists that help you on your way. Living in LA gave me access to some of the best schools in the country, and while I was there, I decided to enroll in a semester-length course for character design. Now, drawing the figure was familiar to me. I had done that in figure drawing and figure painting classes in college. But instead of taking hours to refine the proportions and to get the value in rendering just right, we worked in anywhere from 15 seconds to 2-minute bursts, capturing the energy of the pose, and we were encouraged to exaggerate and contort the proportions to really get the emotion across. Emotion was more important than proportions, and this was the first time I had ever been exposed to that. I cherished every minute of my experience in that character design class, and while I learned a ton about design principles, the most impactful lesson extended far beyond the technical skills. Being an artist requires curiosity, a commitment to learning, and a willingness to push yourself into new and sometimes uncomfortable possibilities. But it's easy to lose that energy and perspective when you get too set or too comfortable in your routine. This class certainly challenged me to step out of my comfort zone and enabled me to adopt a humble, inquisitive mindset. It also reawakened my playful, creative energy in a way that I hadn't explored since I was a kid. I wasn't worried about getting things right or wrong in a 2-minute sketch because there was a 2-minute sketch happening right after it. I also had this incredible sense of community being in a class every week. I saw the same students and I got to see their progress. I developed a relationship with my professor, and I experienced that collective energy of us all working and growing and asking questions together. This class was not cheap. We're talking LA prices, but in a certain way, I'm glad that it wasn't. Paying for this course and committing 12 Thursday evenings to this endeavor sent a really clear message to myself. I am worth investing in, and my artistic growth matters. When we believe that we are worthy, we show up differently. We step into the opportunities presented to us with confidence, and we take our growth seriously. There are endless learning opportunities out there, from free YouTube tutorials to exotic art retreats. And while you can learn something in any opportunity with the right mindset, intentionally selecting what you say yes to matters. In the Color Lab, I have designed every part of the learning experience to help you develop as an artist. We work primarily in our sketchbooks, refining skills, playing, and exploring. And along with a library of pre-recorded curriculum that you can access at your convenience, there are scheduled live sessions to connect with the community. I show up live to support your growth, answer your questions, and guide you through both technical skill development and in cultivating healthy creative mindsets. If the Color Lab sounds like the right fit for you, I can't wait to see you in there soon. But regardless of the opportunity that you choose, remember to invest in yourself and to take your growth and development seriously. Remember early in the video when I mentioned that master studies were a great way to improve your compositional skills? Well, if you're interested in learning more, this video is for you. I'm going to take you through an entire master study from start to finish. See you over there.